we are reading more journal entries. This is probably the most boring part of this for everyone, but honestly, I'm still entertained. I still like reading these journal entries. So, I would hope all of you guys do too. If not, we'll eventually get to new gameplay. But I'm still enjoying myself. Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone, in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome, good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. By the way, you guys know how, like, on Steam or a lot of websites, there's like a page system to where, like, it displays like 50 or 100 at most, and then at the bottom you have a 1, 2, 3, and then ellipses, and then at the end you have like whatever the other end of the number is, like 137, 138, 139, so that you could literally, like, I think YouTube needs a page system for both playlists and for videos and even for community posts. I think there needs to be a page system to where if you want to, like, have a list of 50 community posts, and then if you want to skip ahead to the next 50, you just click next. The same way you can skip ahead 5 pages, or change how many are per page. You can customize that yourself, so that if you want to go in your community, because I have so many community posts, I kind of went a little overboard with that. I'll still probably occasionally post a few things here and there, but at this point I've posted just so much. I feel like there needs to be a page system. That way, if you want to skip ahead 2,000 community posts, you can do that. It just, as is, there's just so much, and you have to scroll through everything. I mean, heck, it's so hard for my computer to even load the next segment of... Whereas it'd be easier if you just had a page system. It'd be so much easier on not only computers, but even on phones, to actually go to any point in a video list. Especially, like, I have playlists that I have like several thousand videos in. I have like 1,000 playlists. I have like 3,500 videos, and I have thousands and thousands of community posts. A page system would be very useful. I'm just saying, a page system, I kind of feel, is like the only way to not feel overwhelmed by just trying to scroll through things, and my computer can't handle it either. So I'm just saying, a page system would be very, very good in YouTube. For playlists, for videos, for inside the playlists, for the videos on your channel, for community posts. I think a page system would be much more organized and would be very helpful. The ribcage. Temperature, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity mild, visibility high. When our leader first told us that there was a locker that led to an alternate dimension, I thought he was insane. However, when I beheld the dark portal within the locker for myself, I knew then that the locker was the insane one. I would prove to be even more insane as I followed him. As my left foot remained on the steel floor of the locker, my right plunged forth onto something that looked like gravel, but gave like flesh, rigid and slightly spongy, but unyielding all the same. Is this what it would be like to tread upon a corpse? The branched veins running along the ground, the bluffs, and even the air certainly support that idea. The act of simply walking in this world still makes my stomach coil. Thankfully, I am not alone in feeling this. The ground is barren of all flora, and comprised entirely of this corpse gravel. It seems to stretch on in canyons for miles, in what appears to be the four cardinal directions. Or at least, I think. It's hard to say for sure regarding directions because there is no sun. The closest thing to it is a fragmented shimmering glow in the crimson sky. It seems appropriate to call this place the ribcage. Not only does it feel quite dead, but it also seems to lead to many other places. Pandora. Temperature 84 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity mild, visibility high. A vein-laden hill stands roughly near the center of the ribcage. If one makes the climb to the top, a noticeable rise in temperature can be felt. I would think that a rise in elevation causes a drop in temperature, but perhaps the underworld is not the place for the logic. At the highest point of the hill, a solid black sphere is suspended in the air roughly 2 meters off the ground. The sphere is surrounded on 4 sides by slates, the domain of the sirens, and yet no siren dwells here. The sphere itself reflects no light, makes no noise, and is large as a construction vehicle's wrecking ball. Possibly even a bit larger. It makes me think of Evangelion, the Sia Rock, angel. All of us were afraid to draw too close on our first visit. Even Ashton had to work up the nerve just to throw a stick at it. It bounced off and didn't seem to have any effect, thankfully. The veins running up the hill fray off into brittle trees just before reaching the sphere, as though even the underworld itself is afraid to touch it. All of this only begs the question, just what in God's name is it? Is it part of the underworld? If not, how did it get here? Is it alive? If so, does it feel? Or is it something completely inanimate? Too many questions, far too many unknowns. But given the nature of the underworld is so far, I'm going to consider it dangerous until I further notice. Tampering with it could be like opening Pandora's box, or sphere as it were, in this case. Ravager's Trenches. Temperature 88 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity high, visibility low. One of the 4 canyons of the ribcage led us to this horrible place. A thick fog blankets the air, as if that small glimmer of light in the sky wasn't already hard enough to see. It chokes our pores, and it's very hard to take a full breath. Not that we'd be too keen to do so. The stench of sulfur is inescapable. Trenches and rivers have been carved into the ground every few 100 feet or so. Each of them is filled with soldiers, hardly human as they are, as black and wispy in appearance. Not one of them pays us any mind above the screams of their rifles and artillery. The serene song of a siren fills the air. Whenever the soldiers are not in a trench, they are making the charge toward the center of the battlefield, where the siren Akarana resides, in peace amidst a hurricane of bullets, shells, and toxic gas. Miraculously, not a single round hits her, but I don't think they're aiming for her. Rather, they are enchanted by the song, to charge with abandon into the battlefield and kill each other endlessly. From the shadows of the trenches, more soldiers emerge, indefinitely, and continue to march to their doom. And yet, they must not view it as such. Each one of them dies with a smile on his wispy face, as though they are somehow enjoying this. We can't allow this to continue. We will need to make our way across this battlefield and halt Akarena's song. Ice Ash Citadel. (10°F), humidity low, visibility high. Another of the ribcage's paths has brought us to shadowy hills that soon become snow-capped mountains, or at least we hoped it was snow. Upon further inspection, it is actually ash. It boggles the mind how such a copious amount of ash could be scattered across these mountain tops. Still, whether it is ash or snow, the cold bites at our bones and takes our breath away. Even Andy stopped calling us warm-butted weasel bait when Judith pointed out she too was shivering. The vein-laden road ends in a drawbridge that leads to a massive castle. The apex of the castle's highest tower, the undeniable song of a siren rings out. Certainly, it is the song of Leith. As we venture through the castle's various rooms, sirens attack us from the slates they rest upon. More worrying, however, is that Leith's song spreads throughout the entire castle through the use of a network of pipes that provide some kind of sonic enhancement. Thus, the effects of the song are felt on us despite our countermeasures. We first noticed this when Ashton seemed to have forgotten that Caldera can use magma to attack sirens. At first we thought he was playing the fool, but when Violet forgot Akina's name, and I forgot what I had for breakfast, not a jest, we knew that something was amiss. In the most extreme case, Andy forgot how to use her legs. Ash and I had to work together to ferry her forward until she could learn how again. It seems like Leaf's song causes people to forget things. Many masses of ice are littered about the castle's interior, their shapes taking the form of anything from a candlestick to a human being. It is possible that there once were people and things entrapped in the ice, but have somehow been removed without disturbing the ice mass that surrounded them. Whether that is the work of the sirens or something else, I prefer not to think too much about it. Foundry of Sin. Temperature 97°F, humidity high, visibility moderate. The cranks and squeals of machinery echo off the stone walls as we forge ahead into another region of the underworld. Rivers of molten gold flow from the orifices in the stone itself, much to the excitement of the living dead that populate this place. They reach in and scoop the liquid gold into their chalices by hand, melting what remains of their flesh in the process. They do not seem to mind it. In fact, they delight as they take their gold-filled chalices to the pedestal at the far end, where the siren Felagathene resides. The chalices are offered as tribute. Felagathene then chooses the one with the fullest chalice to join her on the slate, where he or she is delighted to be violated in indescribable ways. Those who were not chosen appeared envious at best, and livid at worst. However, Felagathene's song soon urges them to do any number of things. The angry and envious take out their wrath upon the chosen, and sometimes even eat them. Once they are finished, and nothing remains of the chosen, the cycle begins anew. Curiously, it seems that every door piece of machinery holds a chalice, just like the ones the living dead hold in their hands. Filling those chalices with liquid gold beckons the machinery to life. It seems we will need to use this machinery to somehow get the living dead away from Felagathene long enough for us to confront her. As I don't see any other way we could reach her. Vigorous mire. Temperature 55 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity very high, visibility low. The dark canyon road ended as gravel soon gave way to what felt like swampland. As we ventured forth, we found ourselves standing on one of the many sparse bits of land amidst a marsh of a vile fluid lacking in a definite color. It was as thick as blood and as pungent as bile, if not for the fact that we faintly heard the song of the siren Cositina in the distance. We would have certainly turned back. As we arrive at a point where we must traverse the muck to get to the next patch of land, we find ourselves knee-deep in the sludge. Our skin slowly turns black and cold from our feet upwards, but recedes when we leave the sludge. As the blackness consumes, those parts of us grow empowered. Our strides are greater, we can lift heavier objects, and we can take deeper breaths, among other things. This is quite to Andy's delight. She chooses to remain in the marsh until it consumes her head, at which point both she and her muse turn against us. It is unfortunate. Knockout and resuscitation seems to be the only cure for this full body corruption. And yet the corruption seems necessary to some degree, as there are gates of petrified wood erected between some footprint-laden patches of land. Ashton and Andy both try to knock them down without the aid of the corruption, but to no avail. It is necessary to borrow the corruption, if you will, to knock them down so we may advance, but harnessing the corruption's strength without being consumed by it is a delicate balancing act. It seems odd to add more deterrence to an already deterring place such as this. Who would or could do such a thing, and why? Could it be Cosatina herself, or someone else? Or perhaps something else? Chasm of the Seed. Temperature 82 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity mild, visibility high. When the disembodied heads of Ocarina, Leith, I already forgot how to pronounce that, Cosatina are placed upon the slates that surround Pandora, they cry out in song. The four songs united cause Pandora to warp and shimmer before exploding into a burst of branches and veins. Thankfully we are unharmed, but the branches twist and turn before taking the definite form of a tower that reaches out to the crimson sky. We climb the tower, the spiral tower, enduring the trials and tribulations within. At the apex of the tower we find the seed, an overwhelming source of negative energy. Perhaps unsurprisingly, it is being guarded by a siren, perhaps even the siren. This one is far more humanoid than the others, but she is still uncanny to behold, as her singed skin struggles to cling to her bones, and yet she does not seem to be in pain. As the skin hangs down, we see that her tendons of her body are actually not tendons at all. They are vocal cords. Every inch of this siren's body is capable of song. This makes her the most dangerous one we have faced thus far. This is where it ends. In order to destroy the seed, we must also defeat the siren. We've come too far to fail, although I won't pretend to be invincible. Either way, you guys ever watch that show, Invincible? This is our journey's end. Today, we will vanquish the negativity within the hearts of the people, or die trying. Note: as I'm sure you know, most of these names are just placeholders. We should definitely get around to changing them, lest we be accused down the line of being overly self-indulgent. Proof. Violet kissed me yesterday at our college acceptance party. I don't think anybody else saw, but I could feel her lips curl into a smile while it was happening. Honestly, that was the best part, just feeling her smile. It felt like proof. It felt like proof that someone can actually feel that way about me. It felt like proof that this was real. So, I was actually right then. I was right the whole time. That's really weird. It's Saturday. So, I think I'll be able to get away with spending most of the morning in the backyard. Mom and Dad don't bother me as much back here. I need to think. So I took a handful of those leaves from the orange tree near the fence and began tearing them in half. When I do, the leaves smell like that fruity breakfast cereal Violet always gets in the cafeteria, even on French toast stick day. I guess it's more correct to say that her cereal smells like the leaves. It's funny. I used to hate that smell, but after being exposed to it so much, I guess I've grown used to it. It really helps me think now, the same way a clean, fresh pencil helps me think after I sharpen it for the first time. I wonder if I'll get used to kissing Violet the same way I got used to this smell. I wonder if I'll get used to that feeling, that goofy-ass smile of hers. Every day instead of just seeing it. The idea of that kind of terrifies me. A kiss with the person you love, becoming as mundane as brushing your teeth. A patterned kiss. But I'm more afraid of this being my last one. We need to do something to make sure they don't keep her here. I need to do something. Fiction. I don't have to catch anybody on Violet's handwriting anymore. Coach. So I started working on my first big assignment for the midnight guard today. It's an essay for English class on the value of fiction. I got tasked with most of our English stuff for some reason. Essays are going to be tricky. I can't let too much of myself show in the language, otherwise it won't sound like Violet. I'll probably just whip up something impossible for a teacher to argue against, like, we've been telling stories for as long as humanity has been around. And blah 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 blah. So there is almost no risk of her being found out. Honestly though, I've never really enjoyed writing fiction. I know Emil and I are gonna start working on something together once summer starts, but it'll be more of a job for me than anything else, I'm sure. Obviously fiction has value, but when the primary goal of a piece of writing is to craft a world and immerse the reader in it, there are some things that are just forced into the back seat. Yeah, once the characters are drafted, the logic of the world works. The motives are implied, etc., etc., etc. Then you can start actually having fun. But who has the time for all that? Poetry, on the other hand, is quick and dirty. If you have something you want to figure out about your life, it only takes a little bit of setup before you're able to snuff out what you're after. With fiction, you have to make an entire second world, just to help the world you live in make a bit more sense. It just seems circuitous. There's too many clothes you have to put on just before you can even leave the house. Poetry is naked though. It's honest, it makes sense. I'm not too sure how much lucidity a long, drawn-out lie would provide for me. Then again, this stuff we're doing for Violet is kind of like a lie. Maybe fiction isn't as bad when you're building it upon it with other people. If anything, I imagine it's less work. Genius. I got a call from Judith this morning saying I need to bring my swimsuit when we all go over to her house today. Apparently her and Andy worked out some deal, and the deal involves us spending one of our breaks every day exercising in the pool instead of just sitting around eating cookies. I'm not gonna lie, this stuff is hard enough already. I'm not looking forward to an exercise regimen on top of all the extra work. Still, I guess if things go poorly enough, we'll only have to do this once. Maybe. Andy is a genius. Well, in her own way, I guess. I don't realize how tense I was just sitting around eating in between work sessions until I stopped doing it. Our second break was a snack break, and I don't know, this time around, it felt like waiting at a bus stop or something. All I could think about was where I had to go. But then, when I was in the pool, I couldn't think about anything else but swimming. It's like Andy kept us busy enough to not be distracted. Was that her plan? I thought she was just being obsessive, wanting to get back into her old routine. But if this turns out to be one of the benefits of being obsessive is, the exact situations your particular obsession is useful in. Judy and Emma have done a lot to hammer out the logistics of this initiative. But when it comes to matters of the body and heart, maybe that's something we should get in the habit of asking Andy about. We should acknowledge what makes her different from us. We should use it. Maybe that's what it means to actually work as a team. Fulcrum 1. A timeless teenage riddle. Fulcrum 1. I am 3 parts rotten cantaloupe, dropped from the rooftop by skatepunks, and half an overpriced churro, shared between lovers at theme parks. To some, I am a hero, but to everyone else, I don't know, man. It's kinda hard to tell. What am I?